we're going to go ahead and post it on our website if you want to look at it then, or at least other people can take a look at it. Today we're presenting NuTrax for agriculture. However, before we get started, a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions during the presentation, we're hoping to save some time at the end to try and answer those. And so attendees, if you can just go ahead and in the chat session, you can go ahead and post your question. We will make an attempt to get all of the questions answered at the end of the session. Regarding the agenda, we're going to provide a brief overview of NuVerge and Nextworld. However, the meat of the webinar is going to be around our agriculture solution. For those interested in learning more about the Nextworld no-code platform and their ERP products, we do have a couple of videos on our website of prior webinars that you're welcome to watch. And you'll find those in the Insights video section of our website. So at this time, let me go ahead and turn it over to Jeff Amron, who is our Senior Vice President of Product Development. Jeff?
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
All righty. As Bill mentioned, we're going to be covering a lot of things today, and this is our safe harbor statement to kick this off. And the reason for this is that we are going to be showing the group here a lot of our future items, so we don't want to make any decisions based on this. However, we are excited to show you some of the latest and greatest of what the team has created for the agriculture industry. With that, we're going to be going over a brief NuVerge introduction. Again, as Bill had mentioned, we do have other recordings up on our website that cover things in a lot more detail. So we will cover off these items at a very high level, but really we want to get you guys looking at product as quickly as possible here so that we can show you live what some of our product is capable of already today. With that, we'll go through the Nextworld introduction, NuTrax industry solution, we'll do a product demo, and then we'll finish out with some question and answers. As Bill mentioned, I'm Jeff Amrine, Senior VP of Product Development, but I really wanted to introduce the rest of our team, but specifically one of our speakers today, Patrick Barber, who is our product strategy for the CPG space. We also have available for the Q&A section, Lubomir Popovich and Lucan Barnett. So we have our team here to help answer any of those questions you guys might have at the end of the session. So, one of the reasons why we're here is because the first question is, why are we building this thing on the Nextbot platform or with Nextworld? Ultimately, there's several reasons, but we want to cover off some of the big ones that we feel are compelling differences for our product over what's in the marketplace. First off, it really allows us to have a single source of truth. The marketplace is full of products that are niche or have certain features that are fantastic in their own right, but they're not tied to a back-end ERP system that is robust enough for some of the companies. It allows for us to be on a Nextbot platform, which we'll talk about in more detail in a little bit around being able to build your own apps, but ultimately allows us to have a single point where we can have all of our applications together. And this also will include additional applications that you might want to build outside of what we've built. And we'll explain a little bit more about that. It's one of the bigger key differentiators for this product. Ultimately, we need to be able to meet unique business requirements. Every product claims to be able to do this, but it's really down to the tool set that enables you to do that. So we're going to cover off how we can meet those business requirements and how it continually will change once you adopt the platform. So year one might look different than year two or year three. The point is we have that flexibility to change with your business. That goes right into growing with your business. We realize that not only you're growing, you might have some changes, whether or not you're doing something different from a process standpoint, or you might have gone through an acquisition. The point is that the product needs to be able to flex with your business. And then we need to go down deep. And what we'd like to call the reason why NuTrax was named, as you guys will get to here in a little bit, is that it is the last mile. And we're going to talk about what that means. A lot of products do some things very well, but they don't actually solve for industry specific items. So you end up with third-party bolt-on products just to accomplish a single task. We're trying to eliminate that as much as possible. And lastly, we need something that is fully connected, fully mobile, and possibly even with disconnected capabilities. So we'll talk through that as well. NuVerge was developed, it was brought about as one of the first partners of Nextworld. So NuVerge has been around almost 3.5 years, I believe now. So I've been with the company over almost a year now. And we're already in the mix of 5 different countries. So we have Australia, New Zealand is represented. We're in Canada now. We're expanding into Europe. So we are global in nature already. But I want to bring your attention really to those 6 NuTrax industry solutions. We're talking about the agriculture as a base product today, but we are looking at different product lines with the NuTrax name as being our track and trace, as well as our last mile solutions for different industries with the Nextworld and Nextbot platform. Also bring your attention to the fact that we're also the top performing Nextworld seller, and we have a global team. Culture is very critical to us. It's something that actually one of the reasons why I joined NuVerge and why I look for companies that have a culture statement and a culture outlook that's similar to my own. Ultimately, it can be a lot of words on the page, but we actually live and breathe these statements. And I'd like to bring your attention to a few of them. Ultimately, we like to share our story. How do we get here? And why are we building NuTrax as a great example? And where does our passion come from? And ultimately, we're trying to build a product that is better than what we've seen in the past. So we brought together a team of individuals that are industry experts and that have built and seen other products. And ultimately, how could we do this better? And have we, and build this on the latest and greatest platform, the latest SaaS technology. And also, we like to have fun along the way. With that, I want to cover off a little bit on Nextworld and why the platform is so critical to our decision-making process. Obviously, it's, the tagline that Nextworld likes to use here is ERP redefined. Ultimately, we realize there's a lot of choices in the marketplace. So what's different about Nextworld? What's different about NuTrax? And that ultimately lies in this graph right here. Why NuTrax, or why Nextworld, and why now? The platform is where we are today. If you look at the prior products that have come out over the last 10, 20 years, a lot of them are still sitting as true cloud products. Many of them are still client server technology, and then you can go back further if you'd like. The platform is what enables us to look to the future. So when we talk about what's next, and the question right there on the screen is what's next, the platform itself abstracts the application. And what that means in layman's terms is that we can now move with the technology. We're no longer beholden to what database we're on. We're no longer beholden to which cloud or what cloud choice is there, whether or not it has correct disaster recovery or all these other technology decisions. The technical debt is what we like to call that. All those decisions are now wiped away, and that allows us to make decisions that are more business oriented. But it also allows Nextworld and the vendor to pick technologies that may come out in the future, whether it's 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. It allows them to actually be the future. So that's what this slide really represents, is why the Nextbot platform is so critical. And how Nextworld came about was they built the platform first. And that goes to this next slide. So if you look at the major swim lanes on this slide here, I don't want you to read everything on here, that you guys will get a copy of this. But ultimately, the Nextworld platform, or the Nextbot platform that sits at the very bottom there, it contains the directory, the contracts, the security, the workflow, all those elements. They built that first. Then they built the ERP applications on top of that. You can see the financials, procurement, sales, projects, supply chain. And then we have industry solutions, which is where we sit. And those are those last mile solutions that go very deep into the specific industries. So agriculture being one, with wineries, breweries, spirits, grain, you name it, right? We can go very deep. And we have another slide that talks about the breadth and depth of where our NuTrax product is going, as well as engineering and construction. There's also other partners in the education and real estate, and we imagine this is going to be added to as we move forward. There'll be other industries that are tackled by either ourselves or other partners. But ultimately, everything is built on top of one single platform, which enables us to be in one source of truth. And I think that's a critical thing. It goes back to that first statement I made, one source of truth. The capabilities here that allow us to be a little different than other products, and we realize, whether it be JD Edwards or SAP or Microsoft or even tier 2 products that might be in the marketplace that we've seen, many of them really struggled with this very first item here, and that is customizations. In fact, the word customization made me cringe when we first came on, because they said, we can handle customizations. And I said, really? That's always been a pain point. It usually costs a lot of money to have any kind of customizations of the system. So what they've done through the way that they're objects are built is it allows us to have what's called sustainable customizations. When a patch is released, it allows you to move forward without having to retrofit as heavily, right? Will there be testing involved? Sure, right? We're not going to paint the picture that everything goes away, but the point is it's now sustainable. It allows you as the customer to create those unique business requirements that you may have or that differentiate you in the industry from others. Whereas before you had to align or you got a cost prohibitive customization you had to maintain. So that's probably the biggest one on this list. Seamless integrations, we talk about the platform itself, having an integration platform built in. Again, we could do a whole session on that. Automated testing built in, it's not a bolt-on product. They are enabling this for the actual customer base to use automated testing. And then automatic updates, so you get patched. Major releases come out once a year, as well as patches come out on a regular cycle from the vendor. That ultimately means you're always up to date. A lot of prior customers that we had products from the marketplace where they were 5 or 6 years behind on patches. That's no longer going to be an issue with a SaaS-based product like this one. And then access anywhere, that goes back to mobility. And the last one, again, future-proofing yourself. If the decision today is that we need to make sure we have something for the future, the nice thing is that we know that Nextworld is always looking at those technologies. We're going to talk about a few of them in this session, but the point is that we will be future-proofing your application so that you can live with this for the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years. And that's the reality, is we believe that this is a product that will be decades long, not years long. So NuTrax, what is NuTrax? It came about as actually several things. I wanted it to be track and trace, was kind of how the name originally intended, but I really like where it's landed, and that is that the transformational application extensions are ultimately what the NuTrax brand means, and it allows for us to say that we're building on top of core, so you have your core ERP components, but then we're building for that last mile. And what that ultimately means is that traditional ERPs don't do this very well. We always end up with those bolt-on systems, whether it be for inventory or pricing or quality or all these other pieces where you need a special system just to accomplish a single task. And you end up spending a lot of money on integrations and other elements. So the idea here is to eliminate integrations where it makes sense. Not all of them, right? We're also very pragmatic that we're not going to eliminate all integrations, but the point is that you can have a lot of cost savings by taking care of the last mile. And it replaces spreadsheets, manual processes, and third-party applications where applicable. There's a lot of customers out there that have very, very complex spreadsheets that are being maintained in the back office by a single individual, as an example. And if that person leaves, it's really hard to get, how did they write that macro, or how did they support that if we ran into a problem? By bringing those out and putting them on this platform, it allows you to have a no-code development platform where you can have others actually have a look at that and be able to support it into the future. So you're no longer beholden to a single employee or employees that may have that knowledge just in their head or on their desktop, right? We're bringing that out into the open. And you happen to be in Manitou Springs, that picture there just happens to be in my hometown, and it's about a mile up, so that's the reference there. But if you want to do a hike with me, come to Manitou Springs and I'll do a hike with you up Manitou Incline. This slide is one I was mentioning earlier. This is about the breadth and depth of where we believe we can go with the NuTrax product. Obviously, if you're in the wine space, that is one of our niche areas that we're already building out for specific dashboards for wineries, breweries, spirits. We could go into coffee or tea. Then you get into the main farming, which is what this particular session is about, around crops and vegetables and wheat, barley, rice, you name it. We can also branch out into fast moving goods, cereals, soda pop, crackers, as examples. So again, the list is long, and we can continue to look at this as reaching out these tools that we've built, and you'll see a lot of that. Imagine how they might be applied to your specific use case. And I think you'll see a lot of capabilities here. And we'll get to Patrick here very shortly. How we bundle this. What's important here is to know that we do bundle everything together as a single subscription license to the customer with a monthly fee. And it allows for it to have the support contract built in. It allows for it to have the enablement project built in, and all the other elements. And we ultimately build this off of the stack. So, and you'll see here real quickly that Nextworld is at the core with those SaaS applications. NextBot, it's actually built on top of NextBot. I could have flipped these two around, but you'll see why I didn't here in a second. But you have that NATE auditing, which allows for full auditing capability without separate tools built into the product workflow. Then we put NuTrax, which has our industry solutions, test scripts, process models, data migration, security rules. There's actually a bigger list of everything that comes out of the box here. We won't go through all those today, but the point is it all comes pre-packaged with the NuTrax delivery. And then on top of that, you have your NuView reporting, which is our analytics tools, the customer support itself, and the enablement project, which actually gets that up and running. And then we surround that with future-proofing the technology, looking at emerging tech, looking at how we do intelligent automation. In fact, we have an example that I hope you guys all get excited about today that Patrick's going to show around how we're tackling intelligent automation, not to be confused with AI, artificial intelligence, but rather intelligent automation. And there is a key difference there, but you'll see what he's going to show here in a second. So this is how we would package it. Now, one of the questions that I commonly get from customers is, great, what if I just want NuTrax and I don't want to replace my core ERP? In other words, I don't want Nextworld initially. I might, be looking at that as a long-term goal or a phased approach. And the answer is yes, we can deliver it in a phased approach. And I'll show you that in this other slide here. So a pre-built integration to an existing system. Let's say you're running JD Edwards or Xero or Microsoft Dynamics, SAP, or even QuickBooks, right? We can integrate to any of those elements on the outside from an inventory or from a financial standpoint, right? So if that's where your core system sits, what we're going to do then is we package up the same thing with the NextBot platform, the NuTrax, and our customer support integrations, and we still wrap that together, and we simply create that simple integration to your core ERP. That allows us to deliver this. The nice thing about this package that's commonly missed in our talk track, and I think what needs to be really emphasized here, is it comes with the NextBot platform. And that is key because it means that you can extend, you as the customer can continue to extend this with your own applications or extend what we've built inside this package. So you don't have to come back to us necessarily. You can, right? You can engage with us to make enhancements, or you can choose to train up your own staff to be NextBot aware and NextBot developers to build your own applications. So with that, I will hand over to Patrick here. So I'll make him the presenter and he will show you some of our code. Patrick?
Good morning, everyone. All right, so I'm going to go through the screens itself. I'm going to show you exactly what it can and cannot do. I want to reiterate once again, our whole mantra when building all of this out is ease of use, simplicity. Everything needs to be in one system, and that all goes to being the single source of truth. So what we wanted to do is we built screens to be able to have multiple apps on that screen, which allows you to do your day-to-day type of jobs. So on the screen over here, we've got a thing called a common context. So we can define everything we want to see on one screen. And for argument's sake, I'm just going to bring up one of these blocks over here. So that will filter down the block that we wanted to see, if there were any associated harvests against it, the weather, and weather is pulled from a single source or multiple sources of websites that you could subscribe to, and that will bring all of that through into the system, and then we'll run off against your growing degree days, or it could be known as your maturity date, sorry. All right, as you can see over here, we've got different attributes against the block. We can have any sort of cost centers, your qualities, your field attributes, how it's all been planted, any sort of row spacing, if you've got any, what your harvest method is. And normally in other systems, you would need to go to a different application to generate out harvests. We're just going to do it directly in here. And based on your harvest pattern, based on a couple of key factors and dates and all of that we've driven inside other applications, it's gone out and it's already generated the required harvest for this. And it copies all data down into the system itself. It realizes what date you are at the minute, so which is your current harvest, sets it in there. It gives you your dates, your growing dates or your harvesting dates, or what sort of item you're growing for. You could do your intended uses, your ownership, whoever owns the product itself. You still got your appellation, your region, your growing areas. Any sort of logistical information has all come through, field attributes all come through. And just to show the map over here on the left hand side, if we went to any other block that we've got inside the system, sorry. So we could go for an apple, let's say, and it redefines itself, it reshuffles around, it goes down into Google Maps, essentially, and then from here you could actually link directly into Google Maps and use it for directions or something like that. But everything else shuffles around us. So that's common context. Weighbridge, sorry, harvests. So contracts that we've got against this. The way we're doing this is you could name the contract whatever you want. Inside each contract, you have got what your delivery form is, what branch you bring it in for, your supplier, your date ranges. So, I mean, this is very key. You want to set it for a year, but you might have a roll pattern of it will renew for every 3 years after the fact. You can enter in a date over there, and it will work out what your new end date might be of that contract. It shows your attached harvest records against this contract. So over here, I've got 2 different blocks, and you can go into that block. It's going to show you, once again, you can nominate what your representatives are for each area. The item that it's bringing through, I mean, it's a crisp pink, your quantities that you want to bring in for it, your pricing that you want to bring in for it. And over here, this is, it's a pricing matrix. So you could have your base price, you could add on certain bonuses if it were hand-picked versus machine-picked. If there's any sort of quality-driven bonuses or deductions, you can add it into here, and it stacks up, right? And there's sort of no limit to the amount that you could actually add in. From a quality side of things, so we have defined it so you can have a quality with your preferred mins, your allowed mins and maxes, and a target amount. We've also driven it so that it will go through and give you what sort of test type you've got, so if it's required, guaranteed, or optional if you wanted, how many tests you want to do, how many samples you want to do, given your ranges, and then your description. So when is this actually going to be tested? So, I mean, let's say we want to do this during production, we want to do a production inspection, we could do this as a visual test maybe, and then the equipment you wanted to use. So, I mean, you can specify exactly how it needs to be done, and that can drive additional costings or equipment uses or anything like that. So that is on the quality side. All of this is wrapped up into lot tracing. So it's trace and track. So, I mean, the whole ideal of any customer or consumer turning around saying, listen, I want to know, I don't know, where this apple was picked and who actually ran the orchard that I'm eating, you know, the apple that I'm eating at the moment. We can follow that all through its packaging and through to the actual wrapping process, the production process, the picking process, the quality, the picking process itself, and we can run it all the way back to what farm it came from. And that's just by making sure that every step of the way, any operation that's done, any block that has been created or orchard that we've created, and it's we record what item number it is, the amounts that we're recording against it. We can record in what the owner is and how much, if there's multiple owners, what the split is for that. We can record in what type of harvest record we've got coming through. I mean, this one was tied back to some wine, so it's got two different varietal types coming through and what the varietal split is, the cost that's been associated as of the last operation, the style of it and the days of that style, and then quality. So we ran the last 3 tests that we ran, these were the tests results and if they were pass and fail. Running through into the weighbridge side, so I'm assuming every single grower would need some sort of intake module. Normally, once again, this is done outside of the system. We've pulled that into the system itself and we allow for creating single harvest records. We can do split loads based on like multiple blocks coming through. You've got your normal weigh-in, your date, your weight, if it's on a normal fixed truck, if there's any bins that you've associated, how many bins have you got coming through, your tear weights, your carrier information, and we can also do any sort of integration. So we might want to link it up to, for argument's sake, you might want an RFID scanner sitting just outside of your property. From the weighbridge, there's a tag on your driver's trucks. As they're driving up, it scans through the RFID scanner. It logs that truck into a queue, and it's really pulled in who the driver is, what the trucking company is, and where that person was meant to be scheduled for the day. And that starts your weighbridge ticket. That way, hopefully streamlining the whole process. We can also connect directly to a weighbridge header unit and pull weights directly into the system itself, thereby eliminating any sort of human error. All right. Everything that we do, there is some sort of logic or functionality built into the app itself. So I'm just going to show a quick grower application, and let's just say we're doing a quality test. We're doing it on a specific block. Once again, in any field that we've got, just for ease of use, you can use type ahead. Or if you don't like that function and you just want to be able to search over the whole lot, you can bring that up as well. So I'm going to use that block over there. It says that the planted area is 5 acres. I'm going to do this treat over 2. We do a quality test, and I'm just going to pull some random data in here for this. We might do a sugar test, and the way we've got it set up, it automatically fails without any data inside it. And I mean, I can do 14, it's still going to fail because it's underneath the minimum allowed. Then I might go, you know what, it's actually 19. It automatically passes for you. It will record the name of the tester, the date of the tester. If we've got any sort of equipment that we did during the testing, you can record any resources that you use inside the resourcing. And I mean, this would be the same for any sort of spray operation, pruning operation, irrigation. You've got control over the equipment that you use, the resources that you use, and the area that you're treating. Speaking of sprays, most sprays obviously come with certain withholding dates after a spray. This might be days before harvesting is allowed, days before any work is allowed back on the field, and so forth. So we've got, I'll just bring this one up over here. So this calendar is essentially a overview calendar of any operation that you've got out in the field at the minute. We've got restricted blocks in this pink color. Purple, we've got any sort of equipment, and then we've got a just an operation viewer, so a netting operation on the right hand side of here. So this will state the block that you're doing it on, the equipment information that you're doing on, the test amount, and later on we're going to be bringing in operation the operation numbers as well. These ones here in the pink obviously are the restricted days, so the system will not allow you to schedule another operation against that block for this time period. And I mean, normally this is in days, but just for demo purposes. So, and then we've got a netting operation scheduled for this date over here. Now, Jeff earlier on said that any sort of integrations that we were talking about. So we might, so like for a harvest schedule, let's just say that we want to we're just talking about a schedule over here, and we've scheduled for a harvest on the 18th. Let's just say we were sitting on the 14th, and the calendar itself linked into the weather app, and it's going to say on the 17th and 18th, there's going to be rain coming through. So what it will do is it will automatically look and suggest if you want to move these two operations, these two harvest operations, you might want to move them forwards into another space, or you might want to push them out to next week. Now, it's a suggestion. You could ignore that and still do your harvest, or you might want to actually go forward and accept the suggestions. And what it will do is it will move that operation into the next available slot. It will update the operation that's linked to, and everything is all done in real time that way. Another thing, a piece of functionality that we will drive off in this is if you've got something scheduled, you will have the ability to be able to just drag the operation around. So you'll be able to set it anywhere within the calendar if you don't like the time, or let's say you've got a piece of equipment that is scheduled for maintenance. So based on the equipment status, where it would normally either be in use or available, you might have a status there for in maintenance or in warehouse. If it hits one of those statuses or scheduled to hit one of those statuses based on the calendars, we could actually nominate that, you know what, the trailer that we wanted to use here on Monday, that's not going to be available anymore. We could have the system advise you of that, and then maybe suggest that you use a different trailer for it, and it could check what trailers are available, i.e. have not been scheduled out to any other operation at the minute. So just as an overview, ease of access, everything is going to be done on dashboards. You don't ever need to leave the front screens. It will all be role-based, so you'll see what you need to see. Applications themselves will filter based on single fields if you want them to. So just making sure that the data that you need to see is obviously available for yourself. Your calendars obviously will be able to adjust with you, and you can subscribe. I mean, it's called like a master calendar, and then you subscribe to other calendars. So you could view your whole processing plant if you wanted to, along with your farming side of the business as well. So you could see your whole picture there. And everything is integratable. So, I mean, we're going to be integrating to any sort of equipment that can be internet driven. If it's available to us and we can get to it, we will be able to pull that information in, and we'll be able to drive maybe start, stop times, temperature controls. We could do running hours. We could, you could even integrate into some of your equipment and actually pick up the actual hour usage on that and update your fixed assets, your equipment assets and all of that, and it drives maintenance schedules from there. But that is my side. So I will hand back over to Jeff, and we'll be continuing.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Show the screen here. Make sure I'm showing okay here.
Yep.
Everybody seen okay? All righty. No, that's perfect. I think, I mean, the main goal is we wanted to make sure you guys got a pretty good view of just some of the functionality, right? We only had about 10 minutes there to show you some of the latest and greatest too, and especially our calendar application and some of the, what Patrick and I both mentioned, the intelligent automation pieces that are being built into the system. So it uses the data that we're gathering from weather and uses the information to help make logical suggestions, right? So not quite artificial intelligence. I don't want to overstretch the meaning of it, but really intelligent automations, which I think is actually key to the entire product line. So it's one of our development things. The other thing that you would have seen is that our entire methodology is around dashboards as well. So getting to the applications quickly, not having to worry about a menu structure, right? So our dashboards are very role-based driven. And the idea there is that unlike traditional ERP implementations where you might be driven more by menus, we're driving based on the user logging in, getting them that information as quickly as possible through the dashboard, and then enabling them to do their job through the dashboard almost completely, right? Harvesting the blocks all on one screen. It's only if you have to drill down further that you really have to go to a different app. The other thing that we'll mention again is that all of that is mobile enabled out of the box. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but also just want to try to finish this up a little bit too to make sure everybody, and we can always do a full live demo and we'll talk about that at the end. Our NuTrax roadmap here, again, we are well on track. We are implementation ready. I think the biggest message that you guys should be aware of here is that our product is ready to be implemented. We are still building out additional pieces and polishing certain areas, but we can start an implementation with the idea of being harvest ready, depending on the particular region you're in or anything else. So this product is ready to go. We do have some forecast planning and automations that we're doing out in the future into 2022, as well as some cool things around blockchain. We'll talk about that. Actually, I'll let Patrick talk about it briefly on the next slide here, but we're excited about some of the future pieces as well. Partnership and integration approach. Ultimately, our partnerships are pretty deep. We obviously are going to integrate to a lot of these, and we have some key partnerships with some of them already, where we're going to market with them too. Ultimately, our product will, we've got an e-commerce thing. If you want a full-scale CRM, we have that capability as well. Just for everybody's awareness, the product itself has the ability to do what we call basic CRM functionality. A lot of customers don't need the full capabilities of, for instance, a Salesforce. And if that's the case, we can definitely do that in product. There's no reason to have, again, another bolt-on, but it really is depending on the use case. So we'd like to talk that through with you. Then we have our industry and specialized areas. Obviously, we go well beyond just open weather or AccuWeather. Those are two that we're using for our demo purposes, but we can go to any weather system. In fact, what Patrick mentioned is PLC devices, so weather stations that might be in your harvest, in your locations, right? Your actual blocks, if they have their own weather sensors, we can actually talk to those as well and use that data. And with that said, we also talk with mainstream partners like DSI, who take care of our mobility needs in regards to disconnected. And that's our next slide here. You'll see kind of native capabilities that are built into Nextworld. We already have QR codes are easily supported, so we can pull up a QR code off of anything in your guys' farm or in a cellar or wherever you're located. In the wine industry, as an example, you might put this on a tank or on a barrel, or in an orchard, it might be on a barrel as well in some case. So wherever you want to put that QR code, we can bring that up and bring up that vessel information dynamically right to the end user as they're walking around. With disconnected, I really want to talk about this for a second, is that with our partner DSI, we can actually do true disconnected capability, meaning that you have no connectivity to the internet in a certain area, and you need to be able to store that information, record some information, and then bring it back, and it basically syncs that information back to the main application. With that said, the stateless design of the platform enables us to actually store information on a mobile device. You might get a glitch or a disconnect from the internet at some point. Your transaction is actually saved locally as well as up on the server. That's what we call stateless design. And that's enabled out of the box. That's a native capability. So it enables you to do what I call low connectivity type work without having to worry about whether or not that transaction's been saved or not. So that transaction is saved for up to 7 days, regardless of your connectivity, and you just need to resync. And that's built into native. And if there's any questions on that, we can definitely entertain that. Lots of capabilities. I'm going to hand this back to Patrick. I think the main thing we want to talk about here is our future capabilities, but there's some of this here that's actually available already today. So Nate auditing as an example, but Patrick, I'll let you talk to the slide.
Yeah, so this is just covering off where we are going with blockchain, who we're partnering with, and how we're actually using. So, I mean, we're in talks with a company called GrainChain at the minute. And it basically will allow us to view everything from seed through to finished goods, thereby eliminating any sort of fraud out in the marketplace at the minute. We also wanted to just point out that we've got the ability to visualize our trace and track. So the system itself will dynamically build a structure based on your operations, and will show how everything's flowed through the system itself. So in this case, it's going from a weigh tag all the way through to a bagging operation at the end. And we also just wanted to talk about how quality is actually integrated throughout. So quality will obviously determine how your product is obviously tracking, which then drives any sort of manufacturing requirements or your pricing requirements as well. So just everything all bundled in over here. But yeah, once again, just making sure that we have been talking with other people out in the workplace around blockchain, and once again, GrainChain being one of those people that we're going to be partnering up with. And Jeff, back to you.
Perfect. Yeah. And when it comes to the sub verticals, right? Obviously, agriculture being the superset, we have sub verticals we're working in, and you guys saw some of those references. I just want to make sure it's clear that you'll see this at the top of the screen: wine, beer, spirits. We're also going to be working on all those other industries. So those are what we call our sub verticals. Agriculture, obviously, being the superset. So, and it all is based on the same application, just different use cases. All right. So to wrap up today, and we'll get to question and answer, I wanted to cover off our main purposes at the beginning, which was a single source of truth. Ultimately, we want to deliver, and the reason why we picked NextBot and the NextWorld platform to build the NuTrax product on was because we wanted a platform for the future. We could have gone with a lot of different technologies out there in the marketplace, but we wanted something that had a robust ERP that sat behind it, that's enterprise class, that can scale up to the largest of businesses, as well as enable small businesses to get started. So our marketplace is quite large. So depending on the size of the customer, please come talk to us. We can definitely look to make sure this is the right fit. But ultimately, we're trying to lower the total cost of ownership for our customers, eliminating integrations where it makes sense. Obviously, and it can be in a phased approach, but ultimately creating a 5 and 10-year plan that allows for you to grow in your business instead of in your IT budget, right? So your IT budget should be moved from being, I'm just maintaining my system, which is what we see a lot of, right? I'm just keeping the lights on, to actually doing things that make a difference to the business. And we believe we can do that through the NextBot and the NuTrax solution here. We want to meet your unique business requirements. We want to extend the core, innovate with not the penalty we used to have with customizations, and be able to ultimately be agile, right? So adapt to the change of pace. And we know that many industries are moving forward rapidly. How do you take advantage of these things if you're spending money just maintaining your current customizations and current system, right? We want you to spend that money rather in actually creating business solutions, automations, bringing other things into the system that ultimately lower your cost over time. We're designed as continuous improvement. Ultimately, because it's a SaaS solution, it is going to be delivering net new functionality, 2 major releases every year, and then patches as we go, as well as your own development, and be able to release that into production. We want to include that deep functionality. Patrick mentioned specifically like Weighbridge, right? A lot of times that Weighbridge application is a separate tool and separate app. Sometimes it's even a manual process that sits outside of your current system. We wanted to pull that in-house. So we're trying to pull in what we consider to be the best way to eliminate human error. He mentioned that before, right? So making sure we automate as much as possible, and also eliminate costs of having separate systems that ultimately you're having to maintain as well. So you start adding up all those things. It really goes back to my first statement around lowering your total cost of ownership over time. And we can adopt it in a phased approach. Lastly, making sure that you guys are taking advantage of a fully connected and fully mobile solution. So all those screens, we have in one of our other demos, we show how the mobility piece works. But ultimately, we want you to know that we have full disconnected capabilities, which is pretty rare. A lot of people can't say that they can be disconnected. So we can take use cases and make sure that you guys are enabled in the field, even if you're fully disconnected from any kind of internet, 4G or 5G connection. And with that, with 5G or 4G still available, even if you lost Wi-Fi or perhaps power outages, if you do have some kind of connection, those transactions won't be lost. That stateless design is built into the platform. And that is very unique. If anybody that does their research on what that means will see that this platform is unique in that way. There's no other product that I'm aware of yet that can claim a true stateless design. With that, we invite you guys to schedule a demo, a full demo. We give you just a brief 10-minute version of that during Patrick's demo there, but we would like to show you the full capabilities of our NuTrax product. So please schedule that with us. This link is available, or you can do it from our website. We also have what we call the NuVerge Promise. This goes back to my statement earlier of if you have the desire to look at the platform itself, just the power of the NextBot platform, we can enable that through NuVerge, and it allows us to take us, for instance, a problem that you might have. There's examples of this. Might be we had another customer that wanted to do something that was kind of outside. They had a bid management piece that they were trying to accomplish, and they didn't want to do it in their product. They could have, right? They could have done it in a legacy product, but it would have taken them 6 to 9 months to build, right? We want to be able to do that in weeks. And that's the promise we have to you. So as a customer, if you have a problem, a spreadsheet that's got a lot of macros and maybe even other things that are going on with it that's complex and hard to maintain, we can uplift that into the NextBot platform and show you the power of that. That's our promise. So please take advantage of that. If you'd like to talk to us about that, please, that's also on our website. Lastly, we do have other webinars that are already recorded. We do have some other ones coming up. There's a few that actually aren't listed here yet because we don't have dates assigned. But ultimately, we will be doing a NuTrax for wine specific one that'll be for that wine industry. So if you are in the wine industry and not just in the standard agriculture business, come to that. That wine one is also applicable to probably breweries and spirits as well, by the way. So there is a lot of crossover. It will be more wine centric, but if you want to join us for that, that is on March 31st. With that, we will be doing a how to build your own app webinar coming up. We haven't named it yet, but it'll be how do you use the NextBot platform. It goes back to our NuVerge Promise. We will be scheduling that shortly. So if you are interested in how to use the power of NextBot and use the tool set itself, we can enable you for that. With that, I'd like to close it out and make sure we get to some Q&A here. So Bill, back to you.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff and Patrick. You guys must have done a good job. There were some questions, but not too many. We've got 3 questions that at least at this point in time, hopefully you guys can answer. And Jeff, I'm guessing the first one's for you. Somebody said, I understand you guys sell the NuTrax product, but does the NextBot no-code platform come with it? And if it does, am I allowed to create my own apps, and is there a charge for that?
Great question. Yes, so whether or not you go with NuTrax right away or you just want to stand up a NextBot platform, we can enable it in both ways. And if you were to purchase NuTrax either with or without the ERP base, it comes with that NextBot platform. So that goes back to that pyramid slide. So you'll see that we do package that together, which means it enables you as a customer to build your own apps and as well as to extend what we've built. So if you have a specific differentiator and you have the appetite, first off, to go develop on your own and want to be trained up on the NextBot platform, we can enable that for you, or you can engage us to help develop that the rest of the way. But the options are all on the table. So I hope that answers that question. And that goes back to our NuVerge Promise as well. We would enable just the NextBot platform by itself.
Yep, I think it did. Second one I think is easy for you. Does your solution support multi-company and multi-currency?
Yes, it does. In fact, we are delivering all of that out of the box now with the latest releases coming out. So we do deliver that. It enables us to go into, for instance, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, especially if you're in those regions, or the European regions. So all of that is now enabled in our product. So the answer is yes, absolutely.
Okay. The last one, hopefully you can understand it. In one of the slides, Jeff, you mentioned automated testing and that some additional testing will be required for customizations. Would these be automated or user driven?
That is a great question. The answer is they can be automated. They don't always have to be automated. I like to be pragmatic when it comes to automated testing. It's never going to be 100% automated. There's always going to be a little bit of end user feedback and end user testing that may have to occur. It also may not make sense, depending on the use case, to automate certain tasks. So what we do like to look at is, what's the value of creating an automated test to cover most of the use cases, and then we still use what I'd call your unit testing or end user testing to vet it on each major release. So the answer is you can. It depends on the use case. But the thing is, the tool isn't a separate product that sits outside of Nextworld and Nextbot. It is a built-in tool.
Good. All right. Well, that is all the questions. Jeff, is there anything else you want to cover before I close the webinar?
No, just invite you guys to definitely take advantage of our website to register a full demo or get together with the team on the NuVerge Promise. We're available, so please register there and let us know your interests. That's it.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend it with us, and hopefully you can join us on some upcoming webinars. Have a great evening.